Sydney, there are three reasons why I'm deeply humbled and overjoyed to connect with you today on Sunday Sips. The first of which, you are an anomaly in that you're a biomedical engineer who's navigated multiple levels of academia, found a massive unmet need in the space of prosthetic innovation for amputees, started a company around it called vessl, built a team, raised capital, and together you all have gone from white paper concept to commercial ready product, which is truly an anomaly, if not an enigma in innovation. And this leads to the second reason that I'm so humbled and overjoyed to curate this discussion with you. You innovate from a deep position of empathy and genuine care for the patients and clinicians you serve. Out of the 200 plus unmet needs facing amputees, you found the one that you believed you could transform the standard of care, and then met that need with diligent, innovative action for years. Few, few folks outside of medtech recognize how much sustained work is required to heal on a global level, let alone starting their own company. And I respect the consistency of your efforts. Now, the third and final reason that I'm so humbled and filled with joy is that I have no idea where this conversation will take us next. I prepared plenty of questions and planned on exploring vessl as a case study on how we can leverage Stanford biodesign to innovate with intention, but I'm genuinely intrigued and curious where we go from here. So, Sydney Robinson, you have a remarkable big brain. So, it is a privilege to officially welcome you, my first Canadian guest, to the Sunday Sips podcast, where I carefully curate the latest big brain insights worth sipping on. So, that's all I got, and let's get to work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe, for having me. I'm really excited to be on the podcast. And, if the whole podcast is just you saying all these nice things, if we can, spend an hour doing that, I don't mind. So thank you. Thanks so much for the very kind and very generous introduction.
Of course. I mean, it was so exciting to actually kind of sit and reflect and write it out because as I went through more and more layers of your journey, it just felt more impossible that everything has actually gotten you to where you're at and the product that people could wear in order to regain that function in their life and that comfort, which I'm excited to kind of go into the layers of that with you and our audience. You truly are an enigma, and it's really exciting to be able to kind of go through the pieces to see where you started and how you got to where you're at, and also the evolution of vessl. Hey, it's the pretentious engineer from the future, and I am so excited for you to get to experience this conversation that I had with Cindy Robinson, and she is absolutely incredible. She's the CEO of vessl, and we're having a beautiful discussion around adaptable prosthetics that move with you and this wonderful company that she's founded. Now, I know you're incredibly busy, so I want to share three reasons why this conversation may be valuable for you. And that way you could decide if you want to stick around and get the full Sunday Sips experience, or if you got to run off to some other stuff and you add this to your watch list for later. So first of all, Cindy is like me, but farther along. Like she's moved from engineering into Stanford biodesign, which I've also leveraged in Japan. She moved into being a CEO of her own company, and then she built the team. She raised funds. This is where she starts to lift off beyond me. And she took an entire concept in the prosthetic space from white paper to a commercial ready product. And we go through all the details and trade offs and choices she made with her team along that continuum. And it is just a remarkable case study looking at what she's pulled together with the group to advocate for folks who have this limb challenge, which we'll get into a video of that right away. So that's the first thing. Number two, by the end of this episode of Sunday Sips, you will have a deeper understanding of empathetic innovation through Stanford biodesign. So this is one of my favorite approaches to developing new products, is to really be proximal to the clinicians we serve. And Cindy is remarkably excellent at it. So I hope that you enjoy getting these little tidbits from her in those spaces. And the third thing, we're going to actually go through an entrepreneurial case study from idea to seeing your innovation come to life, like basically bringing about new technologies. And we start with doing a little bit of story time for her with her origin story, how she found this unmet need in the space of limb volume change, which we're going to get to as soon as we hop back in, and then bringing this concept to life. So how they actually iterated multiple times to eventually get their product onto somebody's leg, which is incredible. And then she's got 5 big brain ideas that you could take with you as you go and innovate within your own context. So I hope you enjoy the discussion. could sip on that, and let's jump back in. Hey, pretentious engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but this episode of Sunday Sips is caffeinated by Kinetic Vision. Throughout my decade-long career in surgical robotics, I've worked with many medtech consultants, and without question, Kinetic Vision stands in a league of their own. They masterfully curate the art of science, accelerating innovation through advanced technology. Their capabilities, creativity, and candor have consistently made them my most trusted digital external innovation partner. We've collaborated across continents and time zones, tackling challenges and unconventional ideas and taking them from white paper to fully functional MVPs. Their contributions, from early concept generation to usability studies, test automations, digital twin creation, VR simulations, and beyond, have been pivotal in moving breakthrough ideas towards real-world clinical use. My partnership with Kinetic Vision has been a decade in the making, and it's an honor to introduce you to their world-class capabilities. If you're facing technical challenges beyond what you can do in-house, I trust Kinetic Vision to help you find the path forward and empower you to innovate on behalf of global patients and the clinicians you serve. Finding the right partner to drive digital transformation within your organization and product pipeline is critical to the long-term success of a medtech business. So check out the link in the description below to take the Digital External Innovation Readiness Assessment, which includes a waitlist for experiencing a discovery session with Kinetic Vision. It'll take you less time than it takes to finish your coffee or tea, and it'll provide you with greater clarity on if Kinetic Vision is right for you. Anyways, you could sip on that, and let's get back to Sunday Sips. And as a quick context to our audience, because my audience is super broad across medtech and then all of my previous content creation before I was really doing surgical robotics content, I'll do everything I can to make the language of this discussion as inclusive as possible for folks who might not be deep in medtech, engineering, entrepreneurial spaces, but you could still speak at your level. And then I'll also record a second SIPS deep dive video that breaks down this conversation. So like I'll sketch and do other nerdy stuff beyond the hour that we have together. So to frame the dialogue today, I think it'd be helpful to share a quick 3 to 4 minute video that will bring viewers into deeper proximity with you, your team, what you're building, who you help, your vision for the future, and then we can roll from there. So I don't know if that sounds like a plan that you're good with.
Let's do it.
Every day, amputees face a hidden challenge. Their leg dynamically changes size inside of a prosthetic leg that never changes size, which leads to pain, frustration, and often a loss of independence.
We heard the story again and again from users, from clinicians, and we knew something had to change.
At vessl, we're really dedicated to empowering people with leg amputations through devices that adapt to their lifestyle and their limbs instead of having the amputee have to adapt to the device.
To us, mobility without limits means having your independence back. It means less interruptions throughout the day, and it means putting on your socket and forgetting that it's even there.
Our journey started at the Medical Innovation Fellowship at Western University, where we saw a major gap in prosthetic care.
What we noticed in the industry is that traditional static sockets are just that, static, and they did not provide the adjustability that people would generally need throughout the day and in the long term. And what we wanted to provide was an automatic solution that was not bionic, something that works very simply through motion and allows you to have automatic adjustments to your fit.
From early prototypes to real-world testing, our focus has always been user-first. Our engineering team is committed to continuous innovation, ensuring each detail enhances user experience. Through dedication and support, we've garnered recognition and funding to propel our vision forward, and we've turned an idea into a movement. This work led to KIN, the adaptive system that automatically adjusts to each person's limb volume change, ensuring a consistent, comfortable fit throughout the day. It uses movement to power these subtle adjustments. No motors, no batteries, just practical and thoughtful innovation.
For veterans, for athletes, and everyday users alike, KIN means the freedom from the daily struggle of fit and function. One of the first people we worked with was Stevie, and his feedback helped shape how we think about device usability.
How's it going? This is Stevie. Today was my first day testing out the prototype Little background about me. I've been an amputee for just over 4 years. I'm an extremely active, adaptive athlete. I do a lot of sports, whether it be rock climbing, snowboarding, cycling, zone jiu-jitsu, skateboarding, mountaineering, and the list goes on. But today was my first day testing this out, and for being the first human patient trying it, it was incredible. It's a super comfortable socket. The self-tensioning system is gonna save me a lot of time throughout the day. The socket is automatically tightening, so I'm gonna eliminate the need for putting on different ply socks to fill the gap, and it's gonna keep it super comfy all day long. And when I get done at the end of the day and it's time for bed, I'm gonna take it off and have a lot less discomfort and pain that I'd get from a standard socket. Show you right here, there's a release button. So these panels all come out right here. There's a mechanical dial right here. You just turn, get it up to being snug. And then as I step, the shock system is going to be self-tightening to fit my residual limb exactly how it needs to be.
Our vision is to make the KIN system the new standard of care, helping thousands of amputees live life without limits. We're not just solving for today, we're building for tomorrow.
To me, vessl means working with great people.
Empowerment.
Designing for life.
Making something meaningful.
Innovation.
To me, vessl means purpose. Join us in redefining what's possible in prosthetics. Learn more at vesselpro.com.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
It was so fun to see that come together the first time.
I know. It probably felt amazing, right?
Yeah. We all kind of watched around and just smiled as we watched the video, like, wow, there's our story in one spot.
I know. And it's just like it's so uncommon to get to that point where you have an idea of an unmet need and you progress the technology to the point that you're actually putting it on someone's body. And then to go farther and actually have a runway to commercialize it, which we'll get into as well, is so unbelievably uncommon. Like I worked at Johnson & Johnson for a decade, progressing different surgical robotics technology, handheld laparoscopic instrumentation. And I can barely count on my hand how many things have actually made it to market out of all of the different projects we've prioritized in those spaces. When Otava launches, I touched that extensively, which is like our full robotic system. But it's just so beautiful to see like, what does it mean to you the first time you put that limb on that individual? I forgot his name. I think it was Jason. Stevie, sorry. Like, what was that moment for you and the team?
It was one of the best moments of the company so far because you work so hard. And so when you do see someone actually using it, you're like, okay, so we've done it. Like, yes, there's still things that we need to change. You know, the first time Stevie wore it on, it wasn't perfect.
Of course.
So there are still things that we're constantly changing and altering and perfecting. But to know that someone is using it and wearing it and it's out there, you can have a much stronger and deeper connection to the problem when you can see a way forward.
Yeah. And how did you find Stevie? Like
He's awesome.
First.
He's awesome. So Stevie, we have an advisor who is a prosthetist. His name is Trace Wright. And Trace had worked with Stevie in the past on a separate project. So when Trace started working with us and giving us advice and guiding us through this process, he said, well, I know someone who's a really good patient tester, if you will, really good at giving feedback, because you want someone who can feel the leg completely, because there's a lot of people that have sensory impairments. So you want someone that can feel the leg and that can really give clear feedback when you're in that product development stage so that you can make the appropriate changes to make it widely accessible.
Yeah. So you've worked with Stevie over multiple iterations, I'm guessing, from that first time you put it on.
Exactly. Yeah. So it kind of works, he'll try it on, he'll give some feedback, we'll come back. Usually we'll do internal testing first, so we don't have him try on the quote unquote next version right away. We'll do like a couple quick iterations at home. And then once we're like, okay, no, this time it could work, then we'll send it back out to him. He'll try it on, give some more feedback. So we've done that about 4 times now, which has been really, really, really helpful.
Yeah. And from initial idea, I know you did a lot of ethnographic research, was my understanding. So we'll get into that. But like from the point you started looking for this opportunity to Stevie, how long was that? of work?
That was 2 years and 2 years and 6 weeks.
Yes, of showing up every day, innovating products, brainstorming. Yeah, and how long did it take you to go towards fully mechanical in your design versus
So
sensors and expensive
we
stuff?
Yeah, we had I would say that that was at the end of the fellowship program. So the fellowship program itself was about 10 months, and we spent most of it understanding the problem. So a lot of time on user interviews, not as much time on product development,
Mhm.
because once you have a very clear picture of the problem, the solution does start to become a little bit more obvious, I would say.
Yeah.
And so once we had gotten to the end of that program, what we knew was the socket needed to automatically adjust, and it couldn't do so with batteries, sensors, or motors. Like, it had to be passive. So there's a couple different ways that you can solve that problem, but those were the constraints we wanted to work within. We actually started with a hydraulic design and then moved to mechanical about a year in.
Yeah, because every time the user pushes, it's causing a tensioning where you're pulling lengthwise and circumferentially on the lathe.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
there we go.
basically what
Yep.
it does basically what it does is that every time someone takes a step, technically this part right here,
Mhm.
is shock absorbing. So it's compressing up to 8 millimeters with every step. And what it does is it's pulling on a cable that is connected through these panels. So as it pulls on that cable, it's able to tighten the panels against the leg. So it's constantly trying to make it tighter and tighter and tighter. Now, we don't want to choke the leg, so we don't actually want it to get tighter infinitely. So what we do is there's a screw at the bottom, and the prosthetist or the clinician uses a screwdriver and this set screw and is able to adjust what they want the kind of maximum tension to be. And then the system will only tighten up to that limit. So it won't over tighten and squish the leg. It'll just tighten up to that kind of comfortable limit, and then maintain that throughout the day.
Mhm. And then I always mix up this word because it's new to me. Prosthetist. I'll
It's
add
a
a
hard
couple
one.
acronyms or a couple
It's a hard
syllables
one.
to it. So
It's a tricky word.
I'll mess it up.
Prosthetist.
Prosthetist. I'll still mess it up throughout this podcast. So the prosthetist, what aspects of your design do they have to customize to fit on the user?
So this is a really good question, because initially we said, oh, well, wouldn't it be great if we just built the whole thing for you? And the answer is no, it's not great. And the reason for that is twofold. First, the prosthetist is the expert. They know exactly what little modifications need to be made to make a massive difference in socket fit. So we need them and their expertise to do the socket fabrication. And the way that the billing system works in the United States is you are reimbursed for what you're able to kind of build and bill for the devices that you're making. So if we make it, then who's getting the reimbursement for that? Like, it just starts to get really murky. So
Mhm.
the prosthetist still fabricates the socket themselves. This one was a 3D printed version, but usually, I mean, you can 3D print, clearly, or you can also use lamination, which is the kind of classic way of fabricating. And then the prosthetist also chooses the size, shape, and location of the custom panels on the leg. And from there, they add this kin unit to the bottom of the socket.
Okay, interesting. So the majority of the top part
Yeah.
is actually made by the prosthetist.
Yes, so all of this is made by the prosthetist and is still custom. And then this piece is what we mass
That's
manufacture.
what powers it. Okay,
Exactly.
so smart. Okay.
Thank you.
No, I have so much respect for you and the team and all the engineering work that's gone into this. Like, every video I've watched is just really exciting to see.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, like, the solution's very clean and very
Yeah.
simple. And I know it's not where it started. I'm sure there was whiteboards with tons of post-it notes and iterations and stress and build test cycles. So to see where it's starting to land is incredibly exciting. But maybe I want to go into all the nerd stuff. But if we could pull way back, maybe if you could share a bit about the essence of who you are, like your background, how you started to move into these bio innovation spaces, and then we'll start to work back into like where vessl is and where you're going. I'm getting ahead of ourselves because it's exciting and the video sparked a lot. So I'll give you some space to kind of monologue through your journey
Sure.
a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. I'll try and give the Spark Notes version. Basically, the way that my career has evolved is I've followed open doors as well as my passion kind of at the same time. So I went into engineering for college because I was passionate about math and I was passionate about science, and engineering is a mix of the
It's a
two.
good start.
So that was why I did engineering. And then I did mechanical because it seemed to be the most flexible. Lots of what I was interested in, but really just kept my doors open. I specialized in biomechanics because I love the human body, fascinated with how it moves. I was actually choosing between engineering and kinesiology initially, so very passionate about the human body. And prosthetics is the natural extension of that, right? You're literally creating and augmenting human motion, which I thought was fascinating. So I got to work on a project as my capstone in my 4th year, which was for an orthosis. So it was an ankle foot orthosis, kind of went up the calf muscle and on the foot to help a 5-year-old girl move. And that was extremely rewarding, as you can imagine. So I didn't end up pursuing prosthetics in my master's. I still wanted to do research. I thought I would do some kind of medical device design. So I did a master's of biomedical engineering, focused on wrist research and wrist implants. And then at the end of that, there was an opportunity that came up for this medical innovation fellowship. And it's based on Stanford's biodesign program. So it's 10 months. They bring engineers, scientists, and doctors together to innovate within medicine. And I didn't know if I wanted to start a company or not, but I thought that this was a pretty cool, pretty low risk way to try it out, right? It's only 10 months. Like, everybody's got 10 months to spare. So I took a pause. I did this program, and throughout the program, because it's focused on medical innovation, you get to interview a bunch of doctors. And so we interviewed, doctors, nurses, clinicians in any kind of field you can think of, from physiotherapy to diabetes to like brain surgery. We did kind of a little bit of everything. And we were recording all of these different problems and could we solve them? What could possible solutions be? And so we came at it from a very like business, almost analytical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Where we looked at this list, and I was already a little bit biased because I was passionate about prosthetics. But we looked at the list and we knocked off the ones that we weren't passionate about or we didn't know anything about how to solve. And as we narrowed it down, we then started using a lot of business metrics to narrow it down. Like, is this actually a big problem? Is this, one surgeon finds it an issue once a year, or this is millions of people around the world have this problem, which was the case for.
Yeah. So you're looking at TAM, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Total addressable market. You start to look at total addressable market and what's the reimbursement structure? Like, who's buying this? How long would it take to make a solution to this problem? And with all of these answers, we kept narrowing down the list. And the one that just wouldn't go away was this poor socket fit, where you have a leg that changes size, as I said in the video, inside of a prosthetic leg that doesn't change size. And you're like, well, that doesn't make any sense. And that's why we're innovating.
And it's always been that way. It's just the current standard of care.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of good reason for that it's kind of always been that way. It's a really challenging problem to have this dynamically changing leg. It's something that you're weight bearing and you're constantly putting pressure on, and yet it's always changing size. Like, that's tough to design around. But still, if anything, makes it that much more worthy.
Yeah. And can you help the audience understand like how much change, because I don't normally sense a shift in my limb volume. The only time that I run half marathons, so like I know my feet swell. Oh, beautiful. Yeah. So I did one in Tokyo, which was a lot of fun. So I buy my shoes like a size too large because I don't want to go toe on the shoe because they get crushed based on my volume as a human moving that far. But for a normal person going throughout the day, is the drift throughout the day? Is it over a longer period of time? Is there gaining and losing weight? Like, help us understand how large of a challenge this is for someone navigating a lack of limb.
I'm going to sound like a lawyer and say it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on the person. So some people experience limb volume change throughout the day. They can change up to like 12% limb volume in one day. And I'll say something more relatable in a second. Or this change can be gradual over time, from like muscle atrophy, right? The muscles kind of degrading as you're not using them anymore, swelling going down, especially after surgery, and things like that as life goes on. And then just general weight fluctuations. Like, I know I've gained and lost weight a lot in my life that changes how large my limbs are. One way to think about it, and the way that they describe it in prosthetics, is sock ply being thickness of sock. And so some people, if you think of a one ply sock, it's like a very thin sock. And people will layer socks on to make up for the lost volume so that they can still fit within the socket. And so some people are wearing 10, 15, even 20 ply worth of sock at the end of the day when they only started with a couple or maybe zero.
Yeah.
So that's the big change, is like, think of adding all of these socks as the day goes on.
Yeah.
Super debilitating.
And they can just perceive that things aren't fitting right. I need to take off this prosthetic. I need to add a sock or take off a sock, stop my life, get it all reset up. And then
Exactly.
And so how does that impact folks and their ability to kind of adopt or continue to use the prosthetic limb?
Yeah. So I'll tell you two stories. One woman who I spoke with said she would rather suffer than wear socks because they're so frustrating to manage and to understand. And so if you can imagine what she's doing, she's wearing her prosthetic, but she's feeling a lot of pain. Probably what's happening is her limb is hitting the bottom, as you're saying, your toe hitting the front of the shoes. Her foot or her leg is hitting the bottom of the socket. And so that impact is very painful, or potentially it's rubbing in a certain area and creating a blister, which would also be really painful. So for her, she's not going to be wearing the prosthesis as much. Another gentleman who I can think of, he worked at a factory. So he would put his leg on in the morning, walk around and get breakfast. His limb would shrink in volume. And so he would stop, put a sock on, put his leg back on, drive to work. By the time he gets to the factory, he has to take his leg off, put a sock on, put the leg back on. And then throughout the day, he's also doing that. So it's just very, very limiting and frustrating for people.
Well, it's just downtime, right? Where you're not actually engaging what you want to engage because you have to stop.
And okay, I want to go for a walk with Joe. Better make sure I grab my bag with my socks in it just in case I need one while we're walking, or right? Like little things like that you wouldn't think about make a big difference.
Mm-hmm. So you have this list of all these unmet needs that you start to find. You're having these conversations with clinicians, you're understanding your total addressable market, there's a possibility there. This is a fun side path. What else was in your top 3 to top 5 that you couldn't pursue in order to focus on this? And how did you make that decision?
That's such a good question. What were the ones in our top 3 to 5? There was another one that we had for orthotics, because orthotics can be really frustrating, and just making sure that you get them in time and the whole fitting process. So it was more of that one wasn't as much of like an engineering innovation as it would have been like a systemic innovation. So we put that one on pause. There were a couple in the, I'm going to forget exactly what the problems were, but it was in the ENT space. So there is a certain, I want to say it was a nose surgery, and just the way that they have to do the surgery is very challenging when you get, sorry if anyone's squeamish,
I
but
love
when you
this. You're fine.
Right up
This is my world.
right up into the nasal cavity. And so we were trying to think of ways that we could make that a lot easier. There was another one in the eye. So on I can't say the word very well. You can't say prosthetist very well. I can't say the ophthalmology.
Okay.
There was like an ophthalmological, I guess, issue in the eye. And so coming up with something for that. So there were a bunch of different ones. And really what it came down to is even just like skill set on the team. So for example, the eye one, that would be really heavy on the biomaterial side of engineering. The orthotics one is a lot more systemic. So that's more really just like an online or not an app, but like a software
solution.
A SaaS solution. So there's all these different, but we just got so passionate about having this like mechanical hardware.
Something you could touch with your engineering background and the biomechanical.
Yeah.
Because I majored in mechanical engineering. I leaned into the biomedical spaces, but I ended up going mechatronics just based on robotics. So I understand how you can get that spark of, this is a problem within my space. Like I can have dominion over crafting a new solution here.
Exactly.
If I iterate through it aggressively enough. So maybe I'm trying to think. So let's unpack what biodesign is quickly. So what does an unmet needs statement look like? I know the language, but if you could help someone understand, you're talking with clinicians, you're asking questions, maybe you're seeing procedures. How do you actually find a need, and what's an example of that concerning your population? A way to go
Yeah, good question. Good question. We really tried to focus on what the root cause was of the issue. So you do a lot of when you're coming up with the need, who is it affecting? What is the outcome? When does this happen? You try and ask those like who, what, when,
Mhm.
where, why questions
Yeah.
and formulate that into kind of a user need statement. So we were doing that for like 200 needs. So it got a little bit repetitive after a point, but it really helps frame what the issue is. And a place where you can really get stuck is being too solution oriented.
Mhm.
So, saying, oh, they don't have this tool. It's like, well, that's not the problem. The
Yes.
problem is like, why do they need that tool? So, really staying focused on the problem at hand, that was a bit of a challenge and a very good exercise.
Yeah, and I think I'm trying to remember the language. I think it's like a way to blink in a given population in order to blink, or at least that was what we used within Ethicon. So, like I got to travel Japan, connect with surgeons. I did a lot of research in thoracic surgery. Was where I did
Mm,
the most clinical immersion. So we were looking at Japan's growing elderly population. They're super aged. They have a lot of comorbidities. So treatment in those spaces is challenging. And an example would be like a way to treat dense pleural adhesions. So hey, pretentious engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but let me explain what a pleural adhesion is. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I explain it during the podcast, but I want to interrupt and show you something cool. And it's not a sponsored insert. It's just me. But I want to do the so what next steps from this conversation halfway through the podcast because I don't know how many of you will actually make it to the end of this podcast. Probably 20%, 10%, 35%. Like the algorithm, people just drop off. And I actually want to give you all the follow ups you could do right now so that you have full context and we'll hop right back into the conversation. I'll run this in like 2 to 3 minutes of your time. But the intent of this is for you to know how to take this dialogue farther, for you to get more value, and honestly, so I could connect with you because you're pretty cool. So, the first thing that we need to do together is we need to amplify Cindy's story. So, let me pull up that. So if you love what she's building towards and the mission of Vessel, I'm going to post some links in the longer form content because I'm assuming that that's what you're watching this on, this YouTube, in the description below. I'll post a link to her LinkedIn. You could follow her. She's very active. She uses lots of exclamation points because she's passionate and it's beautiful. So follow her. I'll also post a link to, that's Cindy. I'll post a link to Vessel in their page because they also post content, which is fantastic. So check that out. And then I will also share a link to their website, which is over here, all the tabs. If we go over to Vessel, they have a beautiful website. You could learn more about Stevie and other folks. And if you click on for patients, because I'm going to assume first that you might be a patient, you might know somebody who's navigating an amputation, please forward this website to them so they can explore if it's the right fit for them, if this is going to provide them greater comfort. And working across that volumetric change of their limb. And they have a wait list here so that you can actually get referred to a clinic. If you're a clinician or you know clinicians in this space, then click this button and go check it out. So incredible work that they're doing. I highly, highly encourage you to check it out and amplify this conversation. So that means if you see a LinkedIn post that's a short, long form content, feel free to blast it out, share it with your networks, share it directly with people that you think could benefit value from hearing her story and seeing what they're building. And let's get Vessel out there. Let's get the KIN system out there. So that's the first thing you could do. Let me go back to my magic sheet. So the first thing you can do is amplify Cindy's story. The second thing, which we'll get to in the big brain ideas, which I'll share at the end of this conversation, I'll summarize everything that I gleaned from this, is it's okay to ask for help. And if you want to ask for help, I have a community that I've built for you. It's called the Big Brain Club. I've worked on this for over a year. We've grown to over 200 members. It's completely free. And we are the largest collective of big brains on a platform called Skool, collectively building the lives we desire, living where we want, loving what we do, and being paid well for it. That's what we're trying to optimize for in this community. And I support left brains, which are engineers and global leaders. Right brains are your creatives and community builders. And then whole brains are parents and entrepreneurs. So it's a really diverse yet inclusive group that are all trying to move forward and build that life that they desire. And I provide a free assessment that will baseline your life. So we can look at how undefined it is versus how much definition you have. Do you have a lot of unknown unknowns you don't know how to solve? How disorienting is it? Do you not know what your next best step looks like in life? And how isolating is it? Do you not have a community of people around you that have reached the level of success you aspire to? And within this community, if I bring you in really quick, we have this Find Your Next assessment, which is beautiful, where you can see people posting incredible lives. So let's look at Iskra is fantastic. So they share their origin state, like where they are right now, and then what they're building towards, their desired future state. And I have a mini classroom, virtual classroom experience or course that brings you through how to do this post, why they want this kind of life, what they're afraid of, and then they post their assessment, and then the community can wrap around and support them on their journey, which is beautiful. So they can do timestamps, and it just keeps that life in front of them. Barnabas, for instance, he's an AI content creator, close friend. He has over 136 comments. He is on here all the time, just continuing to build towards his business of doing YouTube full time, which is beautiful. And then in addition to the Big Brain Club Lite, I also have the Big Brain Club Pro, where we could kind of accelerate that journey beyond finding your next. So if I show that really quick, I have this lovely community, the Big Brain Club Pro. It's a small paid group, and for monthly members, I do office hours each week. We do live Q&A where we track their wins, their blockers. I provide some homework. It's one-to-many coaching. I bring in keynote speakers that are at the top of their game, and I have a big brain repository of different courses you can navigate to accelerate your journey. And then for annual members, I also include quarterly one-on-ones. So you can screen share with me, show me exactly what you're building towards, the challenges you're navigating. It's like coaching over a longer time horizon of success, because these members commit to a year of office hours and some one-on-ones with me to see where we could really take them next, which is super cool. So that's asking for help. And then number 3, don't forget to check out Kinetic Vision. Let's jump over to that real quick. Let me find that page. All the tabs. There we go. So yeah, don't forget to check out Kinetic Vision and this readiness assessment. If you go through a series of questions, which takes you less time than having a cup of tea, then you will get to this beautiful results page where you will also get an assessment on how ready you are for digital innovation. Although maybe it's not going to load. Oh, that's what I wanted. Click on the button. There we go. It's coming. But Kinetic Vision is honestly like the best engineering consulting firm I've ever crossed paths with over the decade of my career. They are magicians in so many ways. And I invite you to just check this out, learn a bit more about them. And this is my backend analytics, which is fun. So yeah, do the Kinetic Vision assessment. And then the other fun piece we have is consider being a guest on Sunday Sips. So I'm super selective about this. I only do 1 or 2 podcast episodes per month. I put a ton of work into the edits, which is why this is like a paid service I offer. But I encourage you, if you are interested in doing this, I have a waitlist, which will assess your podcast readiness. Like I'll look at 3 different dimensions of your virtual storytelling ability, and then I'll ask some free response questions. So you can navigate this for yourself. Or another thing that's really cool is if there's someone you want to nominate, just fill it out on their behalf, and then I'll get your email so that I'll be able to connect with you to connect with them. Or you could just message me and them directly in LinkedIn together. I would love to highlight your story. And then the final 2 things I have for you, if I go back here, is I do a Second Sips deep dive on this podcast. Okay, so if I pull up my lovely DaVinci of the edit, this is so meta. Like this is where we're at right now. I can actually show you the part we're at. This is where we are right now in the edit, which is so fun. I put all these markers in here for me to go deeper with you. So I'll pull up my tablet, I'll sketch some different ideas, we'll break down the conversation. So if you're getting value out of this podcast, there's like a Second Sip deeper podcast, and there'll be a link in the description as well. And then finally, friends, keep changing the world. Let's get back to pleural adhesions, and Joe from the past can explain it. Your lungs can start to adhere to other tissue structure if you've gone through multiple revisions. And clinicians, when they're trying to access the lung, they have difficulty navigating that. So we'd say like a way to navigate dense pleural chest adhesions in a super-aged population. And then you could have like the risk of the solution, like in order to prevent blood loss or in order to give confidence that blah, blah, blah. So when you have this common framework, it allows you to walk into any clinical space and quickly understand like who are we talking about, what are their problems, where are we trying to take them, And then how do we prioritize? Because you're always going to be flooded with more problems than you can actually fix. And that's something I think a lot of folks underappreciate, is that every clinician's navigating different challenges in their context. And we just can't innovate solutions for everything just based on how large the market is and how quickly we can deliver a solution within certain lead times to then realize revenue to reinvest that in the cycle. Like, and you're going to find that because you're commercializing your first product, but now you have to figure out like, what's your portfolio of products that you move into? What are other verticals that you could start to claim? Are you looking towards acquisition and all the other fun pieces? So very
Well, and
exciting.
building off that, Joe, what's interesting is not only do you have to prioritize which problem to solve, but then once you prioritize which problem, it's almost like how much to solve it, as you're
Mhm.
saying, right? Because you're constantly working on these constraints, time being one of them, money being another one.
Yeah.
And so, what are you able, of the different factors and features that someone would want within the solution, which ones are like, this has to happen or the solution is useless? And then which are the ones that are like, but it would be really nice if it also did this. And trying to navigate that space is not easy. And that is, I would say, a lot of the product development process is narrowing down. That's why you do so many user interviews, right? Like that's why you keep the users so close, is so that you know, oh, this is something I can do later. This is something I have to do now.
Yeah, because you have to really stay focused on critical path because you're monitoring burn rate and lots of challenges with resources. So maybe let's talk about this. You find the unmet need. You're moving towards these spaces, and you realize you can't meet that need completely on your own. So how did you build a team, build a vision, gather funding? I know you had a successful pre-seed was all I saw thus far, but I don't know actually how you've raised over time. How did you go through that and help people understand? You could speak in generalities or specifics. Like, how much did you actually have to raise in order to develop a product, and how long of a time frame does that give you before you're burned out and need the next raise or the next revenue? Because again, I think folks underappreciate just how challenging it is to go from a problem into something that's on Stevie's lake. Correct? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got it. You got
Yeah.
it. The amount of money changes drastically depending on what the problem is. So
Mhm.
for us, because for example, we're a class 1 medical device, that helps our costs go down.
Yes.
A class 1 medical device doesn't have to go through as extensive of user testing as a class 2 or class 3 does, because the risks are lower.
It's
And so
beautiful.
that is so
It's
nice.
so nice compared to the world I live in. It is so incredible that you found that
Yeah.
pocket.
Honestly, Joe, it was one of the reasons why, one of the factors of choosing the problem to work on was like, what class of medical device is this?
Yeah.
So that we can actually get this out, within our lifetime. And so that was what was one of the things we focused on. The other thing that comes into play when you're talking about financing is how complex is the solution. So because ours is like, we use materials that exist in the world, we didn't have to create a new biomaterial that we have to then build in order to build the device. So we can get all of the parts kind of machined or manufactured fairly easily and readily accessible. There's lots of devices that we can use off the shelf components that we can put inside of the device. So we have lower costs that way as well. So we were able to be a very capital efficient company early on. And the plan is to be a capital efficient company all the way through. But that was how we started. So at the end of that fellowship program, my co-founder and I actually did the program together. So at the end of the 10 months, we were both passionate about it. We loved working together, but on different aspects of the business, which is a massive advantage.
Yes.
And we were both very passionate. And I'll speak for myself. I had never had that opportunity before, and I didn't think I would ever get that opportunity again, where someone had literally paid me to look for problems to solve. Investors don't invest in that part. So I was like, it would be really a big shame if we didn't at least try, because we have a clear problem that needs solving. So that was, luckily I had a co-founder to get started, is what I'm saying with that, with the team aspect. And then about a year in, we were able to hire our first employee.
So cool.
Wild. And he's still with us. So
You haven't scared him off yet, which is great.
I haven't scared him off yet. And so he's been phenomenal. And that was really nerve-wracking, because founders have to be invested. Like, you own the company. So you have to be invested in the company. And Alexi and I work so well together, as I've mentioned before, and we really like working together and we're friends. So to bring someone else into that very intimate fold was scary. And luckily Ed is incredible. So that was, it's not an issue, but it was nerve-wracking at the beginning. So we brought Ed on a few years ago. And then this year, after that successful financing, we were able to hire on a whole batch more people. So we went from 3 in March to 7 now. And that's mostly on the engineering side still, but we also have a marketing associate now, which has been fantastic.
Excellent. Yeah. And then you have commercial to figure out and how you actually get sales and building that up.
Yes.
So you're going to have to
Well,
lead the
and I
scale.
would say we figured out what that looks like. Now it's just a matter of doing it. So it's, you get to this exciting point in the company where you know exactly what it is you need to do next. And it's really just a matter of, kind of hitting the pavement, putting the hours in and accomplishing the path you've set forth for yourself, while also leaving it flexible enough to adapt as you go.
Excellent. So another space I want to move into in this dialogue, like you radiate passion, joy, optimism, at least everything on camera. And we don't, but I know product innovation is super messy. Working with people is very messy. You have different pathways that things can spiral down, and there's risks and challenge, and naturally, like fear of failure is also a piece, right? You've invested so much in the space to have it all collapse or have a competitor come in and just like eliminate you overnight, or all these crazy things that can happen. It's very real. So I'm curious if you could bring us into some of maybe the darker days or challenges you've had to navigate during the journey, and how you continued to progress through that to eventually get to a moment where what you're building is on Stevie's Lake.
Yeah. Those are good questions. I think that every startup can relate to having to push timelines. And I would say that is the biggest source of stress for me, because timing is everything in business, but especially in startups. Like, you live or die on your timing. And it relates to the burn rate you were talking about earlier. It relates to the fundraising. It relates to a competitor coming in and taking you out overnight. Like, if you can move faster, you can be more successful. And so when you have to push a timeline back, that can be really demotivating. So there have definitely been times where we've had to push a timeline, and that you're just dealing with a lot of emotions there. You obviously don't want to be delaying the timeline, but it's the best business decision. And so you're navigating your own emotions around that decision, while also having to then manage the relationship with the people that are involved in that. So if it impacts manufacturing, now you're managing those manufacturing relationships. If it impacts user feedback, now you're reaching out to all those clinics who are so excited to try your device, and you need to update them on the update and timeline. If it's investor related, right, you're updating them on what's happening. So there is a lot of relationship management and expectation management that happens in startups that I think is underappreciated when you start, and is a skill you really hone quickly as you develop out the company.
And I think to build upon that, like, because I've navigated a year of all in entrepreneurship, I've hit zero multiple times. The strain and the impact on family is incredibly challenging. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a CEO, you are attracting the worst problems. Like, you have to continue to face gaps in your know-how or your capability and climb and then push through. So how have you found the tenacity to keep doing that? Because you've been building this for 4 years now. 3, yeah, which is incredible, having not worked in industry prior. That's why and I have, more lines of encouragement for you from your case study, but it is absolutely wild to me that you have gotten this product this far just based on pure academic like experiences, and then starting a company and actually seeing this much success in it is remarkable, because you have so much runway beyond vessl, or however you scale vessl into something even greater. So yeah, what have been some of the problems that you've attracted that you didn't feel ready for and found a path through?
All of them.
Yeah.
all of them.
Mhm.
So thank you for your kind words again. I am an engineer by training, and therefore not a business owner by training.
Yes.
So everything business related, which oh yeah, my title is CEO. I do all of the business related things. All of that is new. Every single element of that is new. And so what you learn is tenacity is one thing. You just have to be really fall in love with the process. You really do have to fall in love with the process, because if you don't like learning new things, you will hate a startup, because you have to enjoy figuring things out. One of the things that I absolutely despise, and I'm sure a lot of people do, is financial projections. They're never fun. No one wants to do them. If you do, God bless you. Um, but early on, I would try and like, okay, well, I'll use this framework, or I'll get an intern to build it, or, and you keep trying to figure out creative ways that you don't have to learn it. And at the end of the day, you do have to learn it.
Yeah.
And so you're often forced into that situation. But now, because reluctantly, I was forced into building them, I feel a lot more confident explaining why the numbers are the way they are, how we are going to get to XYZ in revenue, how we're going to sell that many devices, what assumptions were we making when we tossed these numbers in, what is our hiring plan, and how does that affect us, and how will it change based on our launch date. So I would say you attract all kinds of problems being the CEO of a startup, and you have to be okay with the fact that you aren't going to know everything. So while a growth mindset is something that I'm constantly working on, doesn't necessarily come naturally to me, but I'm starting to fall in love with it. Something that has always come natural to me is asking for help. And you need that in a startup.
And who can you ask for help? Like, how do you intentionally curate an environment that you have people around you that have seen the success you aspire to in these different spaces?
Everybody. And what I mean by that is anyone you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
People are, and as someone who's been at it for 3 years now, I can say, because I'm like finally at the point where I can actually give helpful feedback. People want to help. Like it is such a, not I help you, you help me transactional thing, but it's an environment where it is so unbearably hard and lonely and stressful, and at the same time invigorating and wonderful, that everybody wants to help each other out. There's no way we'll succeed if we're trying to cut each other down at the knees. So I reached out to people who were ahead of me. I always continue to do that, who are ahead of me in the business landscape, so that I can ask them questions, right? When you were 3 people big, how did you decide who your 4th hire was going to be? When you were setting up payroll, why did you choose that payroll system? When you were doing inventory, how many people did you have around you to help with inventory? Did you use distributors or not? Like, there are anywhere from very specific process type questions up to more philosophical type questions that you can ask someone who's been there, done that. So I would say other founders is a really, really, really critical community to bring around and to build. And then also you want to have advisors that maybe have very specific knowledge. So I mentioned Trace Wright, who's one of our clinical advisors. We have a whole group of prosthetists that we can ask if we have a prosthetic related question, right? Because they're in the field. I have relationships with individuals who, some are prosthetists, some aren't, but they're in kind of my role-ish in like sales and marketing of larger prosthetic companies, so that I can ask what the gold standard is in the industry in that space. And then you've got people who've maybe built and sold a company before 10 years ago, and their background is finance. So they're really good at the financial projections. So you're constantly curating these advisors, mentors, formal relationships, informal relationships that you can then ask questions. And I would say for anyone looking to build their network, just reach out. LinkedIn is the one that everybody goes to. So just reach out on LinkedIn, and chances are that someone will respond if you are asking for help.
My gosh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, there's been so many dark days in my journey where there's just no one in circles navigating what you're navigating, unless you're crafting that ecosystem of people around you that you could reach out. And I think a lot of folks don't build that proactively soon enough. So the biggest space that I see you moving it, and maybe the 3 challenges I see you navigating, that at least you look like you're doing it very well on paper, you have to be the head and the voice of Vessel and helping the world know what you're building towards and why. And your promo work with that's great. And like hitting the pavement and connecting and being in person and connecting with your patients. I think you're doing a great job with that. Commercials like the new frontier I see you navigating of actually leading with revenue and building that org because you've never historically done that before as an engineer. And then I forgot what the third piece was. Oh yeah, and then scaling from manufacture of a couple to hundreds and thousands. And you often hear that leaders often can sometimes be outgrown by their companies. So the person who's really great at finding the unmet need or discovery, they could take it towards commercial readiness, and then boom, an acquisition happens from private equity. That person's out bringing a CEO that knows how to take it from 0 to 10 million. Another CEO knows how to take it from 10 million to 100 million. What I see in you anyway is just a deep passion and curiosity and a willingness to grow across those continuums. So what do you actually want? Like, what are you building towards in your future you? Or kind of what are you passing on to Sydney in the next couple of years, and where do you want to be with vessels and beyond?
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
I feel flexible.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is our goal at the end of the day, my goal at the end of the day, is to have a solution that helps the most number of amputees possible. So at this stage, that's what we're building. And I see the opportunity to work with some of those larger companies to make this a more global and widespread adoption.
Mhm. From a distribution perspective.
Yeah, from a
Yeah.
distribution perspective and from a know-how perspective, from an established relationships in the industry perspective, there's a lot of different opportunity if we can partner with some of the larger players. So I do think that that's something that we want to build towards in our future. As for my role, I'm obviously very passionate about Vessel and very passionate about the prosthetics industry. So I'm willing to really just see where Vessel takes me at the end of the
Mhm.
day. I feel very lucky to be able to test out all of these different aspects of what it's like to build a company. You wear so many different hats. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm doing 7 roles at once all the time. And I think that that gives me the flexibility to move into one role or another depending on how the company grows. So
Mhm.
I'm willing to be flexible.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And vessel, is a ship that takes you somewhere is the language you've used for your patients, but also as the CEO, like you are crafting the culture of your organization, and what kind of ship are you crafting for the people that want to partner with you and build with you in these
Yeah.
spaces?
Yeah, a very inclusive ship, I would say. It's one of the things that me and my co-founder are most proud of at Vessel is the community that we've built internally here. Everyone here is phenomenal. We work really well together. We get along really well. We eat lunch together every day. Like
Oh, that's so awesome.
it's amazing. It's just like such a good group of people.
Mhm.
And it's a ship. Vessel is a ship. I think that's going to take a lot of them through their careers because we are a very young team as well. And so being able to build out those careers, I think, is really exciting. And you can already see a lot of that development, which is super cool. In terms of the partners that we want to bring on, I think we take that same internal culture that we have and we bring that out to the space. So we're very welcoming, empowering people, and as a company we are that when we're interacting with different individuals and different organizations. So I hope that those are the things that people feel when they get to work with us.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And I know you are ruthlessly focused on getting kin out the door naturally, which will be for leg amputees. What are you imagining beyond kin or building around kin from other amputee solutions with volumetric limb change? I forget the exact language you're using in these spaces.
Mhm.
Right now, your main value prop is talking about how it's purely mechanical. Everything that I'm working on is moving towards digital solutions, which adds cost, and you have to prove improved clinical outcomes or other value. So I totally respect exactly what you're launching with, but you do have to be thinking kind of other things. So I don't know what you can share or don't want to share, but what do you imagine beyond that initial launch of Kin or building
Yeah,
on that platform?
definitely. Yeah, we definitely do see it as a platform. We see it as this kind of base technology that is widely accessible that will help a very large number of amputees. we're always going to be staying, I shouldn't say always, we plan to stay working with lower limb amputees. The upper limb market is fairly saturated. There's a lot of really incredible companies in the upper limb market. So we're sticking to lower limb. We love that adjustability aspect, having the devices adapt to the patient. So other ways that we can do that, you and I spoke about earlier in the conversation, having a cutoff of, okay, this is what I have to include now versus these are the features I can add later. So the closest next product would be different features that we're adding to the device that either enhance its performance in certain aspects or increase the number of folks that are actually able to access the device and are able to use it. So we've got a few ideas that way. And then we have a bunch of ideas for kind of accessory devices. So as you said, are there ways that we can move into the digital space? There are people that have created new sensor technologies. Can we partner with them or integrate their technology? Like what are some of the opportunities around digital expansion? And in the prosthetics industry, it's exciting because data is a big conversation right now, as it is in a lot of industries, but prosthetics has typically lagged behind some other industries. And so the fact that data is becoming more and more important in the prosthetics industry is really exciting. So avenues that we can move around there, or even just complementary devices in general. Most prostheses have a liner or a flexible inner liner that you wear inside of the socket before you actually put the socket on. So are there ways that we can optimize that technology to work best with adjustable sockets? A lot of different ways that we can go, and we've got a pretty solid bank of ideas, I would say.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm sure it's extensive. I was looking at, I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the orthopedic surgical spaces, but Zimmer Biomed does a lot of orthopedic implants, and they have, I can't remember what it's called, but just looking at it, they have a knee implant that's smart and self-powered by motion. You should look it up. Your team should look it up because a lot of their data output is really curious. So it can wirelessly capture data from the knee all day. It stores it internally inside the knee. And then you could see like how often are patients getting out, walking on their limbs. It's informing their physical therapy, like the whole continuum of care. So as I see vessl growing in the future, if you could dominate more of the continuum of care, it unlocks different SaaS verticals and things around the prosthetic. But
100%.
it drives
I've definitely
cost.
seen that. Now that you mention it, Joe,
Yeah.
I've definitely seen that.
And you
I
have
also
different,
don't remember.
well, you have different, I'll send you a link afterwards. I did a little mini review on it. I just can't remember the name of it, but you have some interesting opportunities there because you're class 1. So you're not putting some kind of smart technology in someone's body with different risks and severity and testing timelines. You could iterate much quicker and commercialize much faster, and the risk is lower. And if it becomes part of a prosthesis, if it becomes part of their continuum of care stack with the physical therapy, like if you could start to link the right people together, the adoption of the limb, the use of the limb, and getting them moving could actually dramatically improve their quality of life holistically. That's where you could start to play long term. Also, for the kin system, it's only for amputations above the knee, right? Is that the current form factor fit?
Most will be below the knee,
Oh,
actually.
sorry.
To get started.
And below is in the shin region, right? Just to clarify.
Exactly.
Above would be thigh. Okay.
Yeah. So in the chin area, somewhere along the shin, that will be probably like most likely where people are going to get started. And that has more to do with the height of the device than its function. And then it is still something you could use for someone with an above knee amputation. But we have some ideas for how to make it even easier to use with that population. Hence the future technology.
That's so exciting.
Conversation.
And if someone who's watching this has a member of their family who's navigated an amputation and they want to understand how to get access to this technology as you move towards commercialization, like what is the best pathway for them to connect with vessl and work with their clinicians to do so?
Yeah, check us out on our website. So we have on the website, we've got a page that's specifically for patients or caregivers. So you can check that out, read all about it. And then there is a button to get on the wait list. There's a button to find a provider. So we will have a list of providers that we know are already using the device. Once we go to market, once we start selling, we will have a list of people that are already using it that we can link patients up with. And then also we can educate a patient's prosthetist if that person would like to start testing out our device as well. So the patient can become kind of an advocate for their own health, which is really exciting. And we would love to be on that journey with them.
Beautiful. And are you curating any kind of community for these patients together to interconnect with each other in their journey with your product?
It's a great question. We are not yet, but it's something that we definitely could do.
Okay.
So, a lot of patients do join patient support groups
Yeah.
on Facebook, is kind of the most common spot. So, we plan to kind of follow along with the conversations that are happening on those platforms, but we don't have a vessel specific one yet.
Yeah, that could, from a organic content creation engagement perspective, that could be interesting to funnel people together that are navigating challenges of being an amputee and different products
Mhm.
that are available. That's fun side quest down the road as you
Well,
commercialize.
and honestly, I was thinking the same thing on my run this morning for prosthetists, for clinicians,
Hmm.
because there's so many products out there. There's like 15 million kinds of feet. And so it would be very difficult for prosthetists as well. You know, you'd have, just like us with any product, you would have your favorites, right? Your favorite brands, your favorite products that
Hmm.
you're more inclined to use. And so it would be cool to have, I think, a platform where prosthetists can come and share notes. They often have 2 or 3 friends or maybe the other clinicians in their clinic that they can talk to and share notes. But it would be cool to have an online platform where it's like, you know, I tried kin with this kind of patient and it went really well. And I don't think this person would like it quite as much, but have you tried it with someone that fits this description before?
Hmm.
How did it go? And kind of, even if it's not about kin, even if it's about, you know, feet or something totally different, I think it would be helpful to have, as you're saying, for the patient, for the prosthetist as well, it would be
Yeah,
helpful to have that kind of
that's really
community.
interesting. I have more to think about in that space. So you have a hard stop in 4 minutes. So the way that I normally end Sunday Sips is just asking if there's any lingering thoughts or any big brain ideas you'd like to share. Our audience is super broad, whether it's engineers, global leaders, entrepreneurs, um, pretty strong in the med tech spaces, but there's other wanderers that are in different industries. So across the arc of your career, the risks you've taken, the challenges you've persisted through, I'm not sure if you have any lingering thoughts or wisdom to leave folks with today that they could
You know,
sip
I
on.
think everyone thinks that starting a company is hard, and it is. It's the hardest thing I've ever done. And companies stick around if you can just keep on keeping on.
Mhm.
So I think it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I get overwhelmed all the time. It's very easy to get overwhelmed with everything that's going on. And if you are able to find a way that works for you, for me, it's time blocking, and I use Superhuman AI as my new email
Oh,
platform. Love
nice.
it. Yeah, sponsored by Superhuman. But it's not. But if anyone, if you have some of these tactics to help yourself stay focused and reduce the amount of overwhelm, it goes a long way, and you can accomplish pretty much anything. So I would say don't let the overwhelm of how intimidating everything is hold you back.
Excellent. Oh, it's so beautiful. Thank you for the time and all the wisdom and just your joy and passion for these patients that you're advocating for. I'm really excited to see where Vessel moves next in the years to come. I'll be following you on LinkedIn naturally. And just again, I commend you for all the work you've done for the last years to actually see this close to market. And I trust that it's going to be a massive success and help a lot of people. So appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much for your time and for having me on. It was a really amazing experience. So super glad to be here, and thank you very much.
So, hey, Pretentious Engineer here. I know you didn't ask, but thank you so much for being a part of this conversation with Cindy Robinson. She has a remarkable big brain, and her team are doing phenomenal work progressing movement for folks that are navigating an amputation through vessel. And I'm so humbled by the conversation that I got to curate with her and to just bring you into proximity with her story. So, I want to share her 5 big brain ideas because we covered a lot of ground and I think it's worth circling back over some of these. So let's just jump in. First of all, her first big brain idea from the talk is to follow open doors plus passion. So one of the things I found most curious and most inspiring for me, being in the season of life that I'm in, is just her ability to notice that something was open with this Stanford Biodesign cohort, and for her to be like, well, you know, it's 10 months. Like, when else am I going to have a shot to do this? And just taking the jump. When we took the jump to Japan, that was another one of those crazy open doors in our life where we didn't know where that would land. We didn't know that that would involve 12 relocations in 1 year to get there. We didn't know that it would lead to crazy exit into entrepreneurship to continue life in Japan, which was another jump. And we didn't know we'd hit zero and fail and have to restart. And at the same point, like I'm doing some stealth mode consulting right now in medtech, and there's curious things progressing. And I'm like, okay, is this an open door? So it was really timely to connect with Cindy and be like, okay, how do I continue to follow the open doors that are presented in my life? There's other ones you got to crack open, right? Like we got to take initiative. But I just love the way she flowed across her career development to all of a sudden she's a CEO of this beautiful, beautiful company. So that's the first big brain insight I gleaned from her conversation. The second one, and they get really good, so hang around, is a ruthless focus on patient unmet needs. Now, this is a key aspect of Stanford Biodesign or user-centric design in which you really want to immerse and be proximal to the clinicians or the patients you're serving, or for your customers if you don't work in a medtech context. And creating that proximity and having that openness to the challenges they're having and really being an investigator and trying to understand like what are they hung up with, what can we do to serve. You have to stay focused on it because there's so many distractions and so many little things you can add that can just push out your development that you never actually release a solution that advances global healing. So I really admire just the way that she was able to get her and her team almost got like stubborn and just stuck on like we could really do something here with their mechanical giftings. We could find a way to deal with this volumetric change of a limb, and everything else just kind of became noise so that they could just focus on the signal, which was that singular unmet need, and developing and launching a product that served it, which was incredible. So that's number 2. Now, number 3, I just got so much energy from her on this joyful tenacity and this idea of stay in the game. That entrepreneurship is hard. You're constantly attracting the most difficult, challenging, sticky problems. But if you could just have this, we normally say like entrepreneurial grit is a common word. She has grit for sure, but there is an air of joy and an ability to lock in like that tenacity that is a little bit different. Like I love and respect her as a CEO and a founder for the way she's moved through all these different challenges with a growth mindset. And she encourages us at the very end of the episode to just stay in the game, like to continue to keep moving forward. And that's just how you win in these spaces. You move from problem to problem to problem to problem, and eventually you'll win. So that's what I've started to see in my own entrepreneurial ventures, in the Sunday Sips podcasts, and the way that I'm attracting medtech roles as well. Like you just have to be persistent and trust that you really can't climb this next mountain that's coming your way. So that's number 3. Number 4, and then after these 5 things, I'll just remind you of some cool next steps you could take. So number 4, entrepreneurial. That's such a long word. I picked all the long words today. Adaptability. And this idea that she didn't say this explicitly, but I picked up on it. You can't delegate, and this is a hard truth, you can't delegate growth. So she was explaining the situation where like she hates finance, she didn't like it, but as a chief executive officer, like you have to understand your books and where money's coming from and how you're going to take care of these employees and your downstream revenue and your projections. And she was trying to get like an intern or find someone else to do it, and eventually she just had to upskill. I have run into so many upskill moments over the last 14 months of my entrepreneurial journey, over the last decade progressing medtech innovation at J&J before that exit. And I found that like I'm content not being the smartest person in the room and bringing in different expertise at different seasons of a project. That's totally amazing, totally valid. Delegating there makes sense. There are also moments though where you have to just grind through the hard to level up, and then you take that with you into the next different challenging context. And with entrepreneurship, especially when you start small, you just have to push through all these different knowledge gaps you have. You have to pay down your ignorance debt, and that hurts and it sucks. And you have to find a way through it. And I just love the way that Cindy moved from challenge to challenge and just stuck with it and continued to upskill. Like I am so darn curious where she's going to go next. I mean, Vessel is about to go into commercialization. She will be plenty busy with that. But all of these skills she's brought with her because she's stuck with it for 3 years progressing the solution. She's super dangerous in this industry in all the right ways. So that's fantastic. Okay, number 5, which was the one that should surprise you. Asking for help. ... Who? ... I loved this line from her. Everybody. Literally everybody. You could reach out to anyone. The internet connects us, in-person connections, and people genuinely want to be a part of what you're building in some capacity. Now, I think there's certain techniques you can leverage to influence people that are enough levels above you to like get them to buy in that you're providing mutual value or exchange of goods. Like, so I have different influencing techniques, but when you have the right vision and mission and you're pushing it forward, you could bring people into it in some really novel, beautiful ways. And just being able to raise your hands and say, like, I need help is fantastic. So I loved that. And that will lead into your next steps for so now what? I'm just going to touch on these again. I know I already shared these earlier in more detail, but just high level before you run. Let's amplify Cindy's story. If you see a short form clip of this, long form video, a post, feel free to share it on LinkedIn or directly send it to someone. And if you know anybody who's navigating an amputation or about to or has had one, and you think that this product can help them on their journey have more mobility and more comfort, please direct them to her waitlist as well as the her website and the waitlist on it, which I'll post in the link below. Number 2, it's okay for you to ask for help. I've spent a year building the Big Brain Club. We've grown the community to 200 plus members, and we are radically focused on building the life we desire, living where we want, loving what we do, and being paid well for it. And if you join the free community, I have that Find Your Next assessment where we could baseline 3 different dimensions of your journey and just give you a starting point to know where your origin is, your desired future state, and what steps you need to take to get towards there to actually activate and start building your life with intention. And then if you want more one-on-one engagement, I have office hours and even like one-on-one access through annual members if you move up to pro, which there's a charge associated with that. That's how I finance my entrepreneurship, which is awesome. The only way you can get access to that is through Lite. I do Waitlist. It's very limited, invite only kind of stuff. So you got to be engaged in Lite before we consider moving you up to pro. And then number 3, don't forget to check out KV or Kinetic Vision if you're having any challenges with digital external innovation. They're phenomenal. I love that company so much and all the great work they've done for me over the last decade. So if you're in medtech spaces looking for some external digital perspective, Kinetic Vision is just transformational on how they can move you forward in your industry. So I would highly recommend bringing them in, doing some discovery work with them, and then seeing if that leads towards something more. So check out that readiness assessment. Number 4, if you want to be a guest, like I'm totally open to word of mouth referrals. I found Cindy because I watched a podcast from Omar Khatib, and he's incredible. And I just saw this conversation. I was like, I have so many questions for Cindy, and I reached out. So it's kind of like Omar referred her to me. In the same way, you can fill out the waitlist and join it yourself if this is something you'd like to curate with me. Or if there's someone you really think should be on this show, you can fill it out on their behalf, or just reach out to me directly on LinkedIn and tag me and the other person so that we could start chatting about if this is a fit or not. I'm exclusive with who I do these conversations with because I put a ton of work into the edits. So I only do 1 or 2 guests per month. There is a fee associated with this as well, typically. So feel free to navigate that. And then check out Second Sips. Assuming I do it, I'm going to go through all the markers in this video and we're going to go deep on it. So that could be super helpful for you. And finally, like, keep changing the world. You can sip on that. I appreciate you, friend. Thank you for staying all the way to the end. You're an absolute champion. If you made it to the end, feel free to post the pretentious emoji, which is the one with the monocle and like the eyebrow raised, or you can just post like some matcha or your favorite drink emoji. But appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one.